Thanks, Todd. Thanks very much for that comment. Before we turn to our colleagues who joined us for today, I want to just ask unanimous consent, if I could, to submit for the record a statement on behalf of our EPW colleague, Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, who cannot be with us here today. For my colleagues, I'd just like to quote a couple of lines from Mr. Fetterman, Senator Fetterman's testimony, and here's what he says. He said, "I'm working with my colleagues across both state and party lines to fight for the forgotten people of Pennsylvania and Ohio, hold Norfolk Southern responsible for the damage that they've caused, and prevent similar disasters from happening in the future. I'd specifically like to thank my colleagues from Ohio, Senator Sherrod Brown and Senator J.D. Vance, for being great partners with Senator Bob Casey and myself throughout this process." Senator Fetterman later states in his testimony, and I quote, "My hope is that we answer this disaster caused by egregious negligence from Norfolk Southern with real policy solutions that will hold Norfolk Southern and other similar companies accountable while making American families safer in the future. I believe that the legislation introduced last week is a great step. And I look forward to getting some answers today and continue to work with my colleagues to get Pennsylvanians and Ohio's alike the resources that they need." And that's his statement. We thank him for it. We now turn to our colleagues who joined us here today. First, I want to recognize Senator Bob Casey. Senator Casey from Pennsylvania, you're welcome to proceed when you are ready. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Carper, Ranking Member Capito, and members of the committee for holding today's hearing. I'm grateful to provide some testimony. I'm also grateful that I'm running ahead of both of my colleagues, Senator Brown and Senator Vance, because of my chairmanship of the Aging Committee, which is we're starting a hearing rather soon, so I appreciate their indulgence. I do want to thank both Senator Brown, Senator Vance, and Senator Fetterman for working with us and others on this bill. Representative DeLuzio of Pennsylvania as well has worked on this in the House, I know, with others. And wanted to start from the Pennsylvania side of this. Darlington Township, Pennsylvania, Beaver County, right on the Ohio border. As many of you know, the derailment occurred just literally feet away from the Pennsylvania border. And I know you'll hear today from Eric Brewer, who's the Director of Emergency Services and Chief of Hazardous Materials Response from Beaver County, and I'm grateful for his testimony. I'll just quote maybe three people. That's all I'll do in the interest of brevity. The first is Police Officer Dan Frederick about his experiences on the ground that night, and I'm quoting him. As a first responder, particularly as a police officer, we all know and understand the risks that come with our line of work. However, we usually know or have an idea of when something or someone can kill us. When I left my two boys and wife to respond to the quote, hot zone, I was expecting to be informed of exactly what was on the train and the potential health hazards. To say I was scared the night of the derailment is an understatement, unquote. I've also heard from residents about their fear of long-term health impacts and the safety of their families and communities moving forward. Jenny Santana of Darlington Township said, and I quote, "I want to know it's safe to stay here. All the people deserve honest answers, and nobody's getting them. If it were your children and your children's lives in question, how far away would be safe? Please hold them accountable and make them help us," unquote. Farmers in the region, I've heard, and I know my colleagues have heard the same, are concerned as well. They want help from the Department of Agriculture. They want certainty that their crops and their livestock are safe and free from contamination, and that the food supply and their livelihoods are safe. Farmer and Darlington Township Chair Mike Carrion said, quote, we along with countless other local agricultural producers have years invested in telling our stories and developing relationships with our customers. The stories of working in harmony with nature to produce a superior product. This story was ripped to pieces on the day of the derailment. It's now our responsibility to do damage control for Norfolk Southern's negligence while absorbing revenue loss of canceled orders. The economics of our industry is very emotionally driven. Emotions are now being driven by perception and lack of information. We need testing. We need factual information. We needed this yesterday, and we're still not seeing that response, unquote. So these residents are scared, particularly the potential exposure that could lead to health impacts for themselves and their families for years. And we do have a response, at least for the future. We have a lot of work to do in the near term, but the future has to be about passing the Railway Safety Act that Senator Brown, Senator Vance, Senator Fetterman, and I and others are leading. It's bipartisan. That never happens around here on big bills, or rarely, I should say. It'd be a good start by Norfolk Southern to tell us today, in addition to what more they're going to do for the people of Ohio and Pennsylvania, tell us today that they support the bill. That would help. If a major rail company said, we support these reforms and will help you pass this bill. So that's what I think the people of both states deserve. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for this time, and I'm grateful to be first in line. Thanks very much.